Alright, my name is Ahmad. This is Unit 1, Principles of Anatomy and Physiology. This is all about the structure and the functions of the skeletal system. First of all, we've got the two parts of the skeletal system. The first one is the axial skeletal part, which is the part that doesn't move. And the second part is the appendicular skeleton, which is the parts that move. In total, in the skeletal system, there are over 200 bones. The axial skeleton is the central part of the skeleton, which has the main function of protecting the vital organs, such as the rib cage, which protects the lungs and the heart, and the skull, which has the job of protecting the brain. The skull, for example, which protects the brain, is made up, which consists of 28 bones, and the vertebrae column has 33 bones and has the role of protecting the spinal cord. If these organs are not protected for rugby players, playing rugby would technically be impossible, because they will be vulnerable to their organs will be vulnerable to damage. So in heavy tackles, they will get injured more. The appendicular skeletal is made up of 126 bones. And the function of this part is it provides the framework for movement. For example, a rugby player, it helps them for flexion and extension. This is vital for when they're passing the ball. It helps them throw the ball to another teammate. The ulna and the radius is connected to the humerus to form the elbow. Yet again, this is another vital part which helps them throw the ball. The hand itself consists of 14 bones. 5 bones called the metacarpals, and the bones in the fingers called the phalanges. The wrist itself has 8 bones called the carpals, which are the strongest bones in the body, including the shoulders and ankles. These are the bones in the body that would take more force when the player is running and tackling. This helps a rugby player throw the ball to run, and when they get tackled, as I said before, it helps absorb the damage. There are 5 types of bones in the body. The first one is the long bones, and these are found in the appendicular part of the skeletal system. And these are parts which help for movement. For example, the legs help them to run, and the arms help them to throw the ball. Both ends of a long bone are covered in high-lying cartilage. This is useful for protecting the bone as well as absorbing shocks. These bones are good for rugby players because in heavy collision, as I said before, it absorbs the energy and doesn't result in injuries. Short bones are the strongest and provide support with little movement. For example, the carpals and tarsals. Inside there are a lot of bone marrow and outside layers of hard bone. Short bones help rugby players when running. This is because the short bones in the ankles are bearing the weight of the player whilst they run, as well as keeping them stable when stood still. Yet again, when they're running, without these bones, they would be more vulnerable to damage. Flat bones mostly protect the organs. Examples are the ribs, which protect the lungs and the heart, and the sternum, which has the job of protecting the brain. It has a large surface area, which makes it more stronger, and hence why it protects the organs. Without these bones, the rugby player would be much more vulnerable to damage, and rugby would technically not be a sport. Sesamoid bones are bones such as the hands, knees, patella, and foot. These are bones that are developed within the tendon, and it also has a job of protecting the tendon, which helps them not get injured. For rugby players, it's used as support, because if not, they will be vulnerable to breaks and fractures. Irregular bones are made of thin layer of bone around the spongy interior. It's complicated, that's why it's called irregular. This includes the vertebrae, the hips, and some of the skull bones. The vertebrae, for example, protects the spinal cord, which helps with nerve impulses. Strong bones are essential. Rugby players, obviously, if the strong bones weren't there, rugby players would be vulnerable to accidents, and yeah. Now we're on to joints. There are three classifications of joints. The first one is fixed joints, which are found between bones, which are bones that are held together by fibrous tissue. For example, the bones in the skull. These are more likely to get injured in rugby. Hence, why rugby players, most rugby players have headgear just for extra protection for their brain. The next one is slightly movable joints. These are bones held together by cartilage, which allows little movement. And examples of these are the spine and the vertebrae column. These are near very sensitive parts of the body. For example, the spinal cord, which is very sensitive because it sends nerve impulses around to the body, and without this, the human body will not be able to move. The next one is freely movable joints, or it can be called synovial joints. These are the parts of the body which allow the greater movements, basically, such as the shoulder, which is the ball and socket joint, and the hip, knee joints. These aid a rugby player in a match to help them run and tackle the players. The types of joints include the ball and socket joint, which is classed as a synovial joint. This is in the shoulder, and one end is a ball and the other is like a cup, and this is why it's called a ball and socket joint. It can be found at the hip, where the femur connects with the girdle, and the shoulder, where the clavicle connects with the humerus. Another joint is the hinge joint. These joints allow only movement in one direction, and they're held together by ligaments, and they don't allow side-to-side movements. These joints are found at the knee, where the femur connects to the fibula and tibula. Also at the elbow, where the humerus connects with ulna and the radius. This also aids a rugby player by allowing them to throw the ball to another teammate. The pivot joint allows turning movement or rotation, and is found at the neck and the hip. Without this, the players will not be able to move their head around to check where the other teammates are, and this helps them figure out where the other teammates are, and so they can know where to throw the ball. The saddle joint consists of two parts, a concave shape, and the other is a convex shape, which are placed against or over each other to form a saddle joint. This allows movement in only two directions. For example, an example of this joint is found at the thumb between the carpals. Now we're on to the functions of the skeleton. One obvious function is for support. Without the skeleton, we wouldn't be a body, we'll just be a lump on the floor. In rugby, the receiver needs to have skeletal support so they can push the other opponent to their side, and therefore they can retrieve the ball. Muscles and tissue are attached to the bones, and without the muscles being attached, yet again, the human would not be able to move. Without the skeleton, rugby would basically be impossible. Another function is for protection for vital organs. For example, the skull protects the brain. However, for extra protection, like I said, the rugby players most often wear headgear just in case. The ribs protect the heart and the lungs because it's the most vulnerable. If the ribs weren't there, it's the most vulnerable part of the body where it can get damaged. The vertebrae is probably the most important, because if it wasn't there, the spinal cord would be vulnerable to damage. And this is important because the spinal cord is in charge of nerve impulses, and this helps with movement. This is essential for tackling in rugby, for example, in scrum. And as I said before, the vertebrae helps the spinal cord for movement. The skeleton also provides surface for the muscles to attach to. It's attached to the bone by a tendon, and the muscles pulling the bones acts like a lever, basically, and this is how the body moves. Without this, players won't be able to move, and therefore rugby won't be a sport. Another function is for blood cell production. Bones contain two types of bone marrow: red bone marrow, which is used for blood cell production, and yellow bone marrow, which is for fat that is not needed and is stored there. Red blood cells helps players get oxygen to last the majority of the game. For example, it helps a rugby player last the whole game without getting tired. And white blood cells are used for in minor injuries such as cutting themselves. It's also used to store minerals, and the main two are calcium and phosphorus. The minerals get released into the bloodstream to the parts of the body that need it. For example, a rugby player would be running the majority of the game, therefore all the oxygen would be going to the muscles in their legs in order to help them run for the majority of the game. This also helps transmit nerve impulses, which helps with movement, and the better the nerve impulse transmission is, the quicker the reaction and the better the agility will be. That's my presentation, and thank you for watching.